Around a year ago today, I made a video called How a 2300 rated chess player thinks. The concept of the video is very simple and very cool in my opinion. We're so used to creators playing games against people 500 elo lower rated than themselves and explaining the moves. But what if we could do it at our own level? Well, to tell you the truth, unless your name's John Bartholomew, that's not really possible. Explaining your moves in real time to the people watching gives you a lot less time to calculate yourself and will make you play worse. So, let me introduce you to the format of today's video. I'm going to be playing a rated rapid game in the chess.com pool. Paired with my gameplay, you'll have Jack from the future explaining absolutely everything I was thinking during the game, along with on-screen analysis so you can clearly see all the possibilities. At the end of the game, we'll also analyze everything in one go, just in case we've missed anything. Before we do get into the game though, Jacksark needs to pay his bills and plug his coaching. If you're feeling like you've been stuck at any chess rating recently, I have plenty of coaching options on my brand new website for you to choose from. You guys can now see testimonials from my current students alongside all the necessary information to get started. New students can also get 25% off their first lesson with code FIRST, or you can get the 5-lesson package, which will give you your 5th lesson completely free. But with all that being said, let's get straight into the game. So it's been a while since we've actually done a video like this, so I'm really excited to see what you guys think of this becoming a potential series. I'm gonna get straight into things as we're already underway. We're playing the Queen's Gambit here, and they play e6, allowing us to go for this Catalan setup that I've been studying. I do mess up my theory a little bit here. G3 is correct, and then they take, and we play bishop g2. So this is all correct so far. This is all, I'm very comfortable with this. The idea is that the c4 pawn is loose, but the light square diagonal has opened up. So there are often tactics to win the rook on a8. In the Catalan, I was looking, if b5 here, I was thinking, okay, knight e5, they'll play knight d5, blocking the diagonal. But if b5, I think we play a4. I'm pretty sure that's the theory. But you can see, if a move like b5 is played, hanging onto the pawn, the light square diagonal opens up for our Catalan bishop. There are some lines where you actually sacrifice pawns as well, playing b3. But we don't get any positions like that in this game. We get a really, really weird position, actually. Which we'll look at in just a second once my opponent plays his turn. I was really happy with how this game played out. Here's me just checking to see that my opponent's account wasn't made yesterday. Always have to check on chess.com. So I actually mess up here. Bishop d2 is the correct move, blocking the check. Oftentimes they'll play a5 here or bishop e7. The idea with bishop e7 would just be to put the bishop on a weird spot for white. I'm supposed to take with the queen here. I don't take with the queen. I get a little bit lazy. I give it a half thought. But you're supposed to play queen takes d2, because then if they play b5, you play queen g5, forking the two pawns on g7 and b5. Fortunately, my opponent does not test me and lets me off the hook by castling, allowing me to win the pawn back straight away. You might notice that I didn't really explain anything about the opening I played in this video. I don't really tell you guys why I play certain moves or what they do in general. One of my most recent uploads is a video on building your own repertoire and how to memorize all of the moves. So if you guys would like to understand your opening some more, feel free to check out that video. Basically, I use a combination of the Lichess study and the sponsor of today's video, ChessMind.ai. If you're not keen on making a custom repertoire from scratch, ChessMind has a variety of over 50 detailed courses crafted by Chilean Grandmaster Mauricio Flores that you can add to your repertoire. However, if you're feeling more creative, you can also create a custom course on the website by inserting a Lichess study PGN. From there, you can practice all the moves in your own repertoire like you would on any course. ChessMind is so ridiculously good value for money as well. It's just $5 per month to get access to every feature on the website, and if you use the link in the description, you can get 30% off any purchase as well. I'll leave a link to their Discord in the description as well, because the founder of the website is incredibly hands-on, and you can literally just request a feature be added to the website, and there's a good chance it'll happen. If you guys want to find out more about ChessMind, feel free to take a look at the in-depth videos I've left in the description on the website. But enough yapping, let's get back into the game. So I did mess up there a little bit. I think that knight takes is also fine, but queen takes is the better move. So I just take that free pawn. There's no real threat on my king right now, and they fly forward with c5, which was, I mean, it's usually an idea in the Catalan when the dark squared bishops are on the board. But now it's just a free pawn. My knight holds the a5 check, and there just doesn't seem to be any nice way for black to kind of justify giving up that pawn. They play knight a6, And it looks like they're going to win the pawn back. I come up with a very, very sneaky idea, though. I don't find it straight away. A lot of these moves I spend a lot of time on. So I'm looking at knight d6, and I'm thinking, okay, is there any way, if I play knight d6, that bishop is as good as trapped? And then if I can trade off the bishop, then the b7 pawn becomes very weak. But I ended up deciding that because the rook would recapture, the b7 pawn would never be pinned to the rook, and they could just play b6. So at the end of the day, there is really no threat on that b7 pawn, so I didn't think that knight d6 was a viable solution. I didn't really see another way. I looked at the engine after this game. There are plenty of ways to play in this position and keep an advantage for white. White is better, by the way, just because we're up a pawn right now. I decided to go for this c6 idea. The idea is, okay, I'm going to give you your pawn back, but on my terms only. If you play b6, okay, I've just got a very nice passed pawn. And if you take, I've split your pawns, and I'm going to have a target for the rest of the game. That's what I was thinking. I did want to check really quickly before I just castled. Is there any other more accurate, more hyper-accurate moves? You've always got to ask yourself these questions at this level. I was thinking knight e5. I ended up not going with knight e5. I think I just castled. I kind of just realized that no matter what I did, it would transpose to the same thing. It didn't matter which move order I tried to do it in. So I castled, and I think it was a decent decision. And we get some really nice play straight away. So they played knight d5, and this is something that I just cannot live with. I need to do something about this knight. Otherwise, I have nothing. Because the knight just holds the most important central space in the position and doesn't allow me to play on black's weaknesses. So I need to get rid of it. I play e4, kicking it away. And now it's attacking my knight. I need to do something about my knight that's under attack. I immediately think about, again, going for that knight d6 idea. Maybe that c6 pawn becomes weak. I can get rid of the primary defender and the light squared bishop. I was considering taking on b6, but then I ended up saying, okay, I'm getting a piece active. If you take, I'm just going after that pawn again. So rook c1, I think, is one of the better moves in this position. I think we'll go back and independently analyze this game. I don't want to spoil too much, but I didn't analyze. I didn't have time to analyze after the game. So we'll look at the analysis independently after this voiceover is done. But yeah, rook c1 right now. If knight takes, we're going to take back with the rook, and my whole game plan revolves around this c5 pawn. They've pushed c5, which I think is the right decision. It allows for bishop b7 to come into the position as well. Immediately I'm thinking, okay, I see some weaknesses in the position. And what I thought was, okay, the queen is on the central file, which my rook wants to go to. So I can kind of develop my queen off the second rank and threaten to play rook d1. I'm also maybe threatening to play knight takes b6 because the queen discovers an attack on the a6 knight. I was just here making sure that nothing could ever land on d4 because we are leaving a hole in the position on d4. But I came to the conclusion that there was no piece for the black side that could really exploit that hole in our position. So now I'm just thinking, okay, queen e7, and what am I doing? I just decide, okay, if queen e7, the black position isn't terrible. They've still got that weakness. We can just play something like rook fd1 and be okay. They end up snapping up my knights. Of course, I'm going to take back with the queen. Maybe I should have considered taking back with the rook, but I thought that, having so many pieces on that diagonal with the light square bishop being on the board, probably take with the queen. And the rook wants to go to f. The f rook wants to go to d1 anyway. So they play bishop b7. I play rook d1. I'm pretty sure I play rook d1. Rook d1, the e4 pawn is still held by my queen. And the light square bishop is also tied to the defense of the knight. So now they come in with queen b6. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't really want to lose control of the game by playing b3 because then maybe the knight jumps into b4 at some stage. I didn't really want to commit any of my pawns, so I decided to defend with the rooks, which was maybe a slight inaccuracy considering how easily black can just trade off everything in the position. And I think had my opponents not made a mistake that I saw in the next coming moves, this game probably would have fizzled out into a draw. I just didn't have enough firepower to go and chase after that c5 pawn. And you'll see just here in a second, they're going to... We'll get to the position. I don't want to spoil it before it happens. But we are controlling the d-file, still pressure on the c4 pawn, defending the b2 square. They play h6, a very slow move, allowing me to play knight e5. The idea with knight e5 is to open the bishop, reopen the bishop, and to reroute to d3. There's obviously maybe ideas of knight d7. I don't think that's very realistic. But you have to like be aware of where your pieces can go no matter how unrealistic it looks. And here I kind of... there's really only one way of looking at it. So you don't want to pin your own piece by playing knight d3. But if you trade off first, trade the set of rooks, and then play knight d3, we're just continuing that pressure on that c5 pawn. And there was a really nice potential blunder that I spotted that my opponent could make after queen takes rook and knight d3. I'll just wait for it to come onto the board. That potential mistake, so I think I immediately played knight d3. The potential mistake is queen d4. White kind of realizing that, okay, there's a lot of pressure, there's been a lot of pressure on black in the game. They always look for queen trades. And sometimes they can just be bad. So knight d3, queen d4, I immediately thought, okay, queen takes, c takes, e5, bishop takes, and king takes. And that is just a weak, blockaded, passed pawn that cannot be defended by another pawn sitting on d4. And I thought, I was praying that my opponent would play this. Because queen c7, this is what I think, okay, draw, right? Queen c7, probably just ending up in a draw. It'll be very difficult to prove any advantage. But queen d4, on the other hand, gives me a lot to play for because I'm just... First of all, I have that majority on the queen side. The a and b pawns versus the a pawn. I thought that was very good. And then I've just got the other pawn that's just a sitting duck in the position. So we'll see it in just a second. Both of us are halfway through our clocks as well. But we'll see what my opponent plays. I think we both take a lot of time to think in this endgame, although we do end up with a little bit of time on our clocks when the game does end. I'm thinking of a bunch of random nonsense right now. Those arrows allow the king to be taken, so sometimes you can get too deep in your own calculations. I certainly do it all the time in Rapid, and you just start calculating nonsense. So a lot of the time, it's a very positive and maybe good thing to remember to stop calculating and just wait for your opponent to make a move. As long as you've calculated the key ideas and you're aware of what your opponent might play, you shouldn't go off and waste your own time. So there they make the blunder. I immediately take and play e5. I'm not sure what my opponent was thinking here. They end up coming with a pretty creative response. It is also a losing response. Yeah, I was just checking. That knight is completely dominated, by the way. Our knight is in such a good blockading position. There's not even any good reroutes. So, obviously, the bishop is hanging right now. It has to take, otherwise it is just simply too slow. But there's no good reroutes. The knight is too slow rerouting, and we just get everything that we want in this position. So, once the bishops are traded off, the kings just have to come into the game. Again, my opponent comes up with a pretty creative solution. There we go, bishop d5. The idea of bishop d5 is that, honestly, it's creative, it's not good. The idea is maybe that the e5 pawn becomes weak. The king has extra squares to go to. The e6 square is now available for the black king to step onto. But I'm just going to play f4, and I'm going to march my king up the board whilst that black knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. Doesn't really have any nice way into the game. I've just got king f2, king f3. I can start marching my pawns. This should be very good for me. They offer my e-pawn to be traded off the board, I accept, and I want to start moving my king. Don't really see any reason to start moving my knight. My king in this kind of position is going to be way more important than my knight, way stronger. I was also thinking, can I push my pawns? I thought that if I start pushing my pawns, there was reroutes to kind of go back and attack the pawns for black. So I kind of just decided to keep my pawns where they were and start using my pawns on the side that my king was. So g4 there, I think, is a very good move. It stops the position from being locked. They advance their king again, and I'm like, okay, my knight covers e5. Let's play a check. And we have lots of space to march into with my king. So I realized that it's going to be very difficult for my king to get in, so I kind of want to make this pawn break first, or prepare the pawn break at least. They're trying to get their knight into the game, but I realized, okay, knight b5, you can go there, but where are you going to go after that? So I just kind of move my king in. There's not really anything. Like, the knight can go to b5, but where does it go from there is the question. They have to move the king. The best reroute is probably playing king e7 and allowing the knight to go b5 and d6. That's probably the best idea. So they go king e7. I need to play king f4 to support this g5 pawn break. And it looks smooth sailing, I promise. It does. It gets, actually, the whole endgame is not too complex. So I play g5. We get takes, and king takes g5. Well, sorry, f takes g is going to be the next move that's played. And I'm immediately thinking, okay, do I have to play king takes g5? I was so worried about king takes g5, and then knight d6, king g6, and knight e4. And I was like, oh my god, I'm not winning. I can't push this pawn again because the knight is defending the square. So I try to come up with something fancier. If I had just stuck to my principles, I would have won this game, because even though the knight is sitting on e4, I have the A and B pawns that can just storm down the board. I can distract the king, and then I can promote my pawn. I think I was worried also about the fact that I might just end up with a knight in this endgame. Yeah, I might just end up with a knight and have nothing. I end up... this position, again, is savable. Like, I should just be going king f4 here. Just going for that pawn. And, like, I don't know if it's winning after king f4. But my idea was, okay, if I put my knight on f4, it's going to cover both of the pawns, right? Not really. It can cover one of the pawns, but not both. I was just so... You'll see it, the look on my face in a second when I realize the move that black can play. Yeah, they can play g3. And I was like, wait, if I take here, how do I stop both the pawns? Because there's 3 pawns that I need to stop realistically. Like, taking on d5 doesn't take away the d pawn. There's still one there. And then I've got 2 to chase around. My king is too active. And I can't chase both pawns down to promotion. And my pawn doesn't promote because the king is in the optimal defensive position. In the analysis, I'll go through everything that could have happened. But yeah, there was a win in this endgame that I absolutely did not find. I am so annoyed that I didn't find it, because it's such an easy, intuitive thing, and I just was one step away from finding it in my calculations, but I couldn't find it. So I have to go back to g2 here, and for a second here, I think that I'm doing okay, and then I realize the next move that black plays, and I realize how lost I am. So d3 is played, and I think in a couple moves here, I just resign. I check, and not too happy with the game, but I think a really instructive game nonetheless. A very nice middle game against a player that is much higher rated than myself. I played a couple high-rated players on chess.com today, and now I resign. I guarantee that I am more annoyed than you about the end of that game. Usually, I struggle a lot in Catalan positions versus players that are so much higher rated than me, in this game, I think it's just proven that I've improved a lot at the Catalan, even though I did mess up the opening theory a little bit, which actually, I look back and I didn't even mess it up too much. We'll get there on move 7 anyway, but I played a decent game with the Catalan, which I'm very happy with. It's a shame that I couldn't cap it off with a win. So we get the Catalan. We'll skip through all of this. No need to worry too much about this. And takes. So we want bishop g2. Again, with something like b5, actually knight e5 and a4 are both viable options. I think I would have gone for a4 in the game. Chess.com is evaluating them to be the same. I think Lee Chess evaluates a4 to be a little bit better. Then you get something like b7, a takes, and this position just gets a little awkward. If something like this, you get a takes here, and what is the move? Knight e5, knight d5, and you can just castle. I think the idea is that you want to play b3 at some stage. I could be wrong. Yeah, bishop b7, b3 is the idea, and you're kind of chipping away at this structure, and black is going to be left with some kind of weakness. This is getting a little bit too far into it. This is not a Catalan video. If you want to watch a Catalan video, I've got one on my channel, link in the description. But we play bishop d2 here, and after takes, knight takes is actually not bad. It's absolutely fine. Queen takes is better by 0.1 or 2. Obviously, the idea is that we get this fork over here. If queen takes, they should just play something like bishop d7. I think the idea now is to play bishop c6. So if e5, I think the idea is bishop c6, yeah. And takes, and you need to play knight a3. So we're getting very theoretical here. They're giving up their light square bishop voluntarily. Not what happens in the game, though. We take with the knights. They castle, which is a big mistake. They should be playing b5 here, punish us for not playing queen takes and not being able to go for this fork. But they play castles. So I take the free pawn, and c5 is another mistake. I think they just messed up their theory because the bishop isn't here anymore. Usually you can play c5 in the Catalan because the bishop's here and you'll take and recapture. But here I just win the free pawn, knight a6. There is queen d6, which I missed. If you take, my pawn just gets more advanced. You can't really take because I'm just going to take with my queen now. So that would have been the easier way. You can also just play something like castles, and after knight takes, you can argue that we've just got a more active position with the bishop. It's a little bit difficult to prove, but you can do it. I really liked c6, though. I thought this was clever. I thought it was much easier to target this pawn later down the line. Followed by castles and knight d5. The engine doesn't think you have to play e4 straight away, although it is not a bad move. Basically, this bishop is such an integral part of your play when you play the Catalan, so you absolutely don't want there to be a piece blockading in the center. I play e4, and then rook c1. Engine thinks that knight a5 would have been a good move, just chasing this pawn, stopping the bishop from getting to b7, maybe forcing them to play c5 a little bit earlier. And then apparently we can go takes, and what is the continuation? Just rook fc1. And trying to pile up pressure on the pawn this way. A little bit unintuitive. I play what I thought was the intuitive move, rook c1. Of course, if they take here, I'm going to take here, piling some pressure, c5 again, and then maybe we'll play like queen e2, queen c1, something like this. Instead, they play c5 straight away. This allows us to play knight d6. Apparently, knight d6 is a very good move now. I'm actually not entirely sure what it does. Maybe the idea is that we're going to go for e5. Let's say h6 is played. We're going to play knight e5, apparently. Maybe just both knights get into this position. The bishop's getting in. If they can't really play bishop b7 anymore, I guess their position's just too cramped because we're holding this b7 square, and they can't get rid of our knight. So let's say queen c7 is the right move here. Then you're going to play f4, and yeah, I guess you're just kind of cramping the position for black, and there's nothing they can really do. So I play queen e2, I missed that idea. They take, we looked over why not to play rook takes, although it is a fine move. Queen takes made a lot more sense to me. We're allowing bishop b7, and I just bring the other rook. We're still better in this position by 0.7, so it is a good position. Queen b6, I did miss something here. If something like, let's just say h3, I'm pretty sure takes, and we can play rook b1, and we skewer the two pieces. I did not see that. The engine's even suggesting knight e5. After this, we play knight d7 first, and after rook fd8, we play rook b1, and now we win the piece like this. The engine's liking this, actually, and trading off the two queens, so it does get a little bit complicated, but white should still be better there. Also, b3 apparently is completely fine. We don't need to worry about this at all. Of course, the pawn is falling, but that's not even the move you want. You want a3 first, forcing the knight to go back, and then you've just won the pawn on c5. So b3 was a fine move to make as well. Maybe rook d2 was a little bit too slow, kind of gave away a big portion of our advantage. Just allowed everything to come off the board. I would have thought that maybe rook c8 here is better. Rook c8. Apparently the engine doesn't like that. It thinks queen b5. Oh my god. Jeez. Okay. Queen b5, sacrificing the queen, because if you take back rank mate comes, that would have been... I would have hoped that I would have found that, actually, but that's a crazy move to find. Knight b4 is the other move that you should be finding for the black pieces here. If you tried to kick, I assume that's... Okay, knight c6. I was going to say maybe this is the way that you want to go here, but knight c6 is the correct continuation. But they play h6, protecting that back rank, allowing knight e5. Rook d8. We don't want to play knight d3 yet, because then maybe, yeah, rook d4 comes in. They're forking the two pieces, and they're still pinning our knight to our rook. So we want to take first, and then play knight d3. I would have thought just a move like queen c7 holds on very well. This is a decent move. Not the best move. Apparently queen b6 is a little bit better. Defending whilst attacking the b2 pawn. But I knew that queen d4 had to be bad, because takes, and e5. I knew that this had to be bad. If you take, it gets a lot simpler, I thought. Because then my king just runs into here. For example, knight b8, we're going to go here. Knight here, we're going to go king e4. And just how do you deal with this? Takes. I just couldn't see anything. I thought that this just must be much better for me. There are too many weaknesses in the position. This king is way too inactive. So I thought bishop d5 was a clever idea. Takes. I still thought it was winning for me. F4. And we won't go to the endgame too much because it was pretty black and white now that you know what the solution is. G4 was a good way to go about it. In endgames like this, you just want to make progress with your pawns. H4, the engine thinks, again, I should be prioritizing this side of pawns a lot as well, which I don't really do. G5, takes, and I go king E5, completely just gives the game away. You should still draw from this position, but I thought that this was no good, because you can't check. But it turns out my worries were for nothing. So in this position, I just kind of assumed that we're just going to shuffle around, right? Like, sure, maybe I can make a breakthrough on this side of the board, but I thought, okay, he's going to sacrifice his knight here, and I'm going to have to take. And then by the time that these pawns are already up here, I'm going to trade one off, and his king's going to take it, and it'll be my knight versus his two pawns. And if anything, he's playing for a win. Not really, it's a draw, but I don't have any checkmating material. But I don't even have to... It doesn't even get as far as the breakthrough, because if I play a4 and he plays a5, b3, black is in a zugzwang. There is no moves. You have to let me play f6. You absolutely have to. Like king e8, I'm going to play f6. And now you might play this. I'm going to start... I mean, now I can force the breakthrough. If takes, I'm going to... Apparently, I don't even need to take, just a5. And now there's too many things. If knight d6, I'm going to play knight takes b4. I could probably even just continue pushing my pawn. a6 is also a thing. Knight here. Now I can play f7. The knight's going to get around this way. A little bit difficult to see from afar, but if I think the one thing that I can learn from this game, and it's actually something that I've told myself before, but maybe now it'll stick in my head. If I don't know, I should just go with what's intuitive. If I can't quite see the line and I'm not capable of calculating that far in, I should just go with the principled way of doing it. I shouldn't get creative like I tried to in this game. I should just play what you guys would play. Honestly, I think if I gave this endgame to you guys, I feel like you guys would win. King takes g5, I feel like you would stumble, because like once you play it, the moves play themselves. Like this, king here, the moves play themselves. You probably play either b4 or you probably play something, and you end up winning this game just because it was a principled endgame. So I'm completely a victim of my own overcomplication, but I thought it was a really instructive game anyway. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see it, like me to turn this into a series. I thought it might be a nice idea. We've done videos like this in the past, which you guys have enjoyed. Has been a while, but yeah, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.